got my sweater on, man.
It is definitely winter. I saw that even in Florida, the temperatures are so low, below freezing in Florida, that sometimes the iguanas go into hibernation, and then
No.
they're like up in the trees, and then it gets so cold that the iguanas actually freeze and they drop out of the trees. And it looks like they're kind of dead, but they're not. They're just, you got to watch out for dropping iguanas, evidently, right now in Florida. That's how cold it is. That's pretty cold.
They're not dead. They're just frozen. They just look like they're dead.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah,
So
it's
welcome
crazy.
everybody
Crazy.
to our weekly pastors video. Dave and Bob here, giving you your weekly entertainment from a pastoral perspective, coming to you from 520 King George Road. And
We got the jokes here, man. We got the jokes.
it's been a humorous kind of week. One thing that's not funny is the fact that the Bengals are going to the Super Bowl. Now that is
That I
an
saw the
upsetting
Bengals and the
situation.
Rams.
It's going to be an
Bengals and the
interesting.
Rams.
It was a good game, another good weekend of games this weekend, and we'll see how it goes in a couple weeks. But nobody would have thought Cincinnati would be there.
2 weeks, right? Is it 2 weeks
2
or
weeks.
next week?
2 weeks. Next
So it's
week's
going
the
to be
Pro Bowl.
Oh, yeah, the second week in February. It's a little late then, isn't it?
I feel like it's later than usual, but
Yeah, I
maybe
thought
I'm
it's usually
wrong.
the first weekend in February, but all right. Okay.
Yeah. 2 weeks. And bigger news is maybe the GOAT has retired forever. I think Tom Brady is saying goodbye to the NFL. And after breaking almost every record a quarterback can break, it's probably time to let some other guys give it a chance, right?
Oh my goodness. Well, respect though, as much, I know a lot of people don't like Tom Brady, but the fact that you can get out there and throw a football at a professional level when you're like, what, 45, that's pretty impressive.
Hey, what is so old about 45? That's what
I'm just talking. Do you want to get out there with a bunch of 300-pound linemen and maybe get sacked? I mean, that's impressive.
I think I'd dislocate my shoulder throwing that thing 10 yards.
That's right.
So,
you get 45, you're thinking your rotator cuff's going to be going and you're getting surgery with all that throwing there. It's impressive, man. It's impressive.
He has somehow stayed young, but we digress. As much as it's fun to talk about the pigskin,
yep.
We also want to talk about growing spiritually.
Hey,
what's going on?
Right here, man. We're gonna talk. Let's talk. Oh, you know what? I got even better.
You went shopping.
Hold on a second. So here it is. All right, I brought it with me.
Oh my word!
I got it. Somebody vacuumed up the stage for me, so I didn't need to do it. But yeah, I got my gardening gloves. I'm trying not to get dirt on my desk, but I digress. So
we're
anyway,
talking about planting here, folks. We're thinking about opening up our own arboretum after this series, and so Bob's been learning about gardening, taking after his great-great-grandfather Adam, and cultivating the Christian life is what we're doing. So we made it to rule 3. And the first part of phase 2, which is the rooted phase. After this seed gets planted, it starts sprouting underneath the surface, and organically, in the providence of God, he's created these seeds to take root in the ground. And sometimes we take root in the wrong places. Sometimes the roots go to the wrong place. So that was what yesterday's message was all about, right?
That is essentially what it was about. We talked about, that we were in the planted phase. Now we moved to the rooted phase, which is a bit harder for us because now, things we have to, really start to get a little introspective. So the first thing we were talking about is that if you want to, the rule was, if you want to grow, you got to get to the root of your problems. And honestly, who likes to talk about their problems, right? Who likes to talk about their problems?
It can be painful, uncomfortable, maybe even embarrassing.
Yeah. Hey, Dave, can you let me share my screen? If I'll share a couple of these slides here, maybe. Give me those permissions.
Yes.
Yeah, here we go.
It can be uncomfortable. It can be awkward. It can be embarrassing. It can mess with my mojo to let you know what's wrong with me.
That's for sure. So rule number 3, get to the root of your problem or you will never change. And yet the issue is that so many of us don't want to get to that root. And there's a lot of things to talk about in this message. So let me just give a quick summary of kind of how I summarized it. We opened up by, I used this illustration of Steve Jobs and not wanting to open his body up because he was sick. And then we said that spiritually, a lot of us, we don't like to look inside because we don't want to face what's in there. It can be scary, it can be terrifying, it can be shameful. But if you really want to grow, you have to look inside. You have to go and face the the demon, so to speak, that's tormenting you inside, and find the washing, cleaning power of the gospel. And we use this agricultural image to illustrate this. So I used the plant, and I talked about how my dad taught me about gardening, and there was three things he taught me. If you want to get to the root and get rid of it, you had to find the root, you had to explore the root, you had to pull the root. So finding the root was where you just kind of dug down, you found the source of it, what was underneath the tree. And then I said the problem a lot of people do is that they find the root, but they don't explore it. They don't see how big it is. Because many times you can pull on something like this, and the root system is a lot bigger than what you initially think. And the same thing is true with our spiritual lives. If we really want to, get rid of all those issues, we have to find the entire root. And then once you do it, then you got to pull it. And too many times people don't like to do the painful work of that. They don't like to get dirty, right? If you want to change, you got to get a little dirty, using the gardening illustration. But they take an axe and they cut off part of the root, but then the root can grow back. So you haven't taken care of the whole problem. You got to pull the whole thing out. And so those are the three steps we talked about, and a lot of stuff underneath that we can dive into, Dave. So what's on your mind today? What did you want to dig into from the message yesterday?
Well, why is that challenging? Why do we not want to get to the root of our problems? What's going on there? Why would we rather kind of stick our heads in the sand and not deal with it? I think there's a few reasons, and you can supplement what I'm thinking. The first is our own blindness to what's wrong.
Right.
We have this amazing ability to be self-deceptive, especially when we're hooked into an idol. We are so focused on getting that thing, whatever that might be, that we can't really see how this is blinding us to all kinds of maladaptive behaviors. We cannot see it. We cannot see it. So that's one reason why we don't want to look. We just can't see it. We need other people. We need God.
Right.
And there's other barriers. I mean, it's shameful. It's embarrassing. We kind of got a reputation thing.
Yeah.
I guess there's a lot of things that get in the way of authenticity and vulnerability.
Yeah.
It's easier to wear the mask. It's easier to.
Yeah. Well, I think I agree with that. I agree with what you said. I think there's a lot of shame that's involved. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of, hey, we want to pretend it actually never happened. Because when you act, and particularly once you find the root, and that second piece of exploring the root we talked about, that can really take us into a place where things it can bring up painful memories, or I said shameful habits that we've tried to sweep under the rug. We don't want to talk about. We'd really rather not go there. So we've actually worked really hard to create this kind of outward appearance, use the word mask, of who we are, and going underneath that might undermine what people see about us. And that can be really hard for many people. For some of us, we've built our entire identity upon certain things. And so if you lose that, then that can really be a major problem for you going forward.
It's very threatening.
That's a great word. It's really threatening.
It feels like a death. I mean,
Yeah.
I think there's a reason why death is the imagery that's used about getting honest and becoming a Christian. Like, are you ready to be crucified? Are you ready to die? It feels like we're losing everything. We're losing the most important thing because it's so shameful.
Yeah. And sometimes people, they want to be authentic. They want to do things, but even in that, and I find sometimes with myself, even as I'm trying to be honest, I really have to fight against just trying to put out the image I think people want to see about me. Right. So I think, let me share this screen again. The Larry Crabb quote.
Gail says too painful sometimes. Yes.
Yeah.
And Gail's got a plant.
Right.
She got a plant emoji for you there, Bob.
Oh my goodness. Right. Plants. We're talking all about plants today. This Larry Crabb Inside Out book is an excellent book. And this quote I thought was really helpful. So let me, remind you what he said again. He said, change, as our Lord describes it, involves more than cleaning up our visible act. Because that's what a lot of us do, right? We kind of modify our behavior. We clean up what people see. But it's more than that. It's deeper. He says, he intends us to do more than sweep the streets, He wants us to climb down into the sewers and do something about the filth beneath the concrete. Now, there's an image for you, Dave. How many sewers have you climbed into?
Man, that
they
does
they
not sound pleasant.
they stink. He goes on, he says, God directs us to enter the dark regions of our soul to find light, to experience his presence when we feel most alone. Biblical change never requires us to pretend that things are better than they are. Christ wants us to face reality as it is, including our fears, hurts, resentments, and self-protective motives. That's what I was talking about, the self-protective motives. We really work really hard to keep out of sight and to emerge as changed people. And then he concludes, not pretenders, not perfect, but more able to deeply love because we're more aware of God's love. And I think this whole thing about the dark regions of the soul, it makes me think about a lot of movies. You know, a really good movie usually has the protagonist that goes through some type of metamorphosis. They encounter a challenge, or they realize something about themselves they never realized before. Maybe the classic example would be Luke going to, in Star Wars, going to the planet Dagobah and training with Yoda, and he says you got to face the dark side. He goes into this cave and everything, and that's a very Star Warsy thing, but it really is present in a lot of movies where you see change and transformation happen in people's lives. So once you go in there, you face your fear, you face those dark regions, and you let the light shine on it. And in the midst of that, you can be authentic. Doesn't mean you pretend, doesn't mean you're perfect, but you can be very authentic in that struggle, and that's where you become, I think, even more real. You find truly who you are and what Christ has called you to be, and you grow. So, but it's really hard.
That's a paradox. So that's a
paradox.
Yeah,
it is.
So, if we will go to the dragon or the dark place, or what's the name of that planet? What was the name of that?
The Dagobah
planet. The Dagobah planet. Dagobah system. If we'll go there, which is something we're terrified of doing, or go to Mordor, right? The one place we don't want to get to, but the one place we have to go.
But the ring, yeah, okay. So we'll get to the ring in a second.
Okay, so like we don't. If we will embrace those deepest fears and our inadequacies, we will experience the very things. Okay, so let me put it this way. We're afraid that if I open up, there must be something about me that is unworthy of connection with you. If I open up to you, then you're going to find out that there's things about me that don't allow me to belong. And so therefore I just would rather hide them. I'm ashamed.
So there's a fear of me opening up because what are you going to think of me? Are you going to accept me? Yep.
Right. So then when I don't, and you accept me for who I'm not, or my facade, I always know that I have this facade on with you. So I always know you're only accepting that facade anyway. I don't actually feel like I belong with you. I don't feel connected to you. So the paradox is, when I open up and share my inner struggles with you, that place of deep fear is also the place of connection and relationship. So that's the paradox. You're not going to really ever experience it until you face the dragon, go to the Dagobah system, face the dark side. And if you don't, then your fears will become a reality, and you will feel disconnected. But we got to go there.
Yeah. And, jumping ahead in terms of what we did in the message, I used the illustration of the voyage of the Dawn Treader with Eustace becoming the dragon. Eustace Scrub had this big, he was part of the elite class, and he had this, this kind of veneer of who he was, and people didn't like him, and he wanted, he didn't realize he needed to change until he became a dragon. He realized what was in his heart. But that quote that I read at the end about Aslan, the Jesus character in the story, coming and meeting him and clawing at him. I love how he said, Aslan clawing at him to take off those last dragon scales was both painful and it gave him pleasure. And I think maybe that's what you're getting at too. There's, in the growth and looking inside and having Christ, work on your heart, there is pain because you start to realize just how sinful you are. But then there's pleasure because, that sinful stuff falls off in the presence of Christ and what he does for you. So very, very interesting.
That was a great image. It's a fictional story, but it's true. What the principle that is being taught there is more true than true. It's something I think we all experience.
Yes.
So
Well,
what
hey,
about didn't you mention that Larry Crabb also had some stuff in that book you didn't get to? There was something about wrong strategies for dealing with stuff. Did you want to talk
yeah,
more about that? You didn't have time for?
yeah. So well, we kind of talked about it, but I didn't get as in depth in that particular piece of it. I think that it ties in with the root system we're talking about though, because we said, when you look inside and you see like you're really finding the root system to your outward actions. So, that graphic we used of the tree and how you could see somebody who's really angry or struggles with, food addiction or this and that. There's always something underneath that. And so, what
Do you have
Larry
that
Crabb,
tree image that you could throw up here?
yeah, 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 let me, pull it up. So yeah, let me answer it by using this. So the tree image, and this is in the workbook on page, I think 50, 58, 52, 52, maybe page 52. So there's this image of the bad tree with the bad fruit, and it comes from Matthew 7:18. Jesus is talking, I think, at the end of the Sermon on the Mount here, about what happens. So at the fruit of the tree up here, you can, and this is where you see people's outward actions. People might be the outward action might be people pleasing, or there's alcohol abuse, or there's workaholism, uncontrolled anger. Those are the things that you see, but those things are never devoid. Like there's always a root system that's feeding up into that. So some of the things could be like you have underlying bitterness or unforgiveness or unresolved grief, or there's insecurity or pride. And the two examples I gave in the message were about anger and lust. And I was talking about how if somebody comes to me and says, hey, I have an anger problem, you should always ask yourself, well, when do you get angry? And then and as you do that, you start to find out what's underneath that. There's what we said in the message. There's almost always an idol there that's being threatened, which is what causes you to get angry when it gets threatened, or the loneliness, and the romantic idol can lead to the sexual sin and things like that. So along those lines, what Larry Crabb says in the book, he talks about how we all have desires. We have desires within our heart that we want to pursue. There's longings that's inside of there. And he said to be human, obviously, is to have those things. We read a few verses where we talked about how our hearts long for joy and things of that nature. But he said, oftentimes, the thing that gets us in trouble, and this is where kind of the idolatry comes in, is even though we have some of these good desires, we engage in wrong strategies. We engage in wrong strategies. So here's what I mean by that. I had to cut this part from the message, but this is how I explain it. So in Inside Out, Larry Crabb notes we all have longings in life, but we use wrong strategies to fulfill those longings. So here's a couple of examples of wrong strategies to give you a little bit of flesh with this. A wrong strategy may be sometimes we have a longing to be in a good marriage, but a wrong strategy could be we put too much pressure on a spouse or a friend to make us happy rather than finding fulfillment in God. Or another wrong strategy could be we think material possessions can cover over deep pain in our hearts. That's not wrong to own things, but if you're using it for the wrong reasons, that creates a problem. Or maybe you're somebody who's constantly controlling life and you're putting your desires above other people. Right. So there's wrong strategies we engage in that reveal the longings that are inside of us. The longings might not necessarily be bad, but we go about finding them in the wrong way. And that's similar to what we were talking about with idols. Like Tim Keller says, an idol can essentially be anything. But an idol at the end of the day is when a good thing becomes an ultimate thing in your life. It's when a good thing becomes an ultimate thing. And that plays itself out in all kinds of different ways. So I think that answered your question, Dave, about the Larry Crabb stuff. And then the idolatry, it ties in with idolatry. Idolatry is kind of everywhere.
Yeah. So, I mean, for example, I'm kind of an achiever. And so I like to have accomplishments. Like I'm a bottom line guy. I want to get stuff done. I would like to
Right.
have projects completed, my to-do list done, they're surplus at the end of the day, and this degree is done, or this book is written, or whatever
Right.
project.
Right.
I feel like that's my particular maladaptive coping thing. Like
Right.
and if I have an unproductive day, I feel lousy about myself. That's an okay story. I mean, it's okay to want to be productive. God calls us to work hard.
Right.
We
Right.
should give our best to him. But where I struggle and my motivation of it is, so these achievements are what make me okay. That's a broken story.
Right.
That's not what makes me
It's a
okay.
wrong strategy.
That's a wrong
Yeah.
strategy. That is not the gospel. That's antithetical to the gospel. And so in a way, these things, and everybody struggles with something different.
Right.
Maybe you're watching here and you like want to be perfect. Like you make almost no mistakes in your life, and you're one of those like people that always point out what's wrong, and you're really really good at making things better. And that's a good thing. We should want to make things better. But if at the bottom of it, it's like you think you have to be perfect to be loved, that's a broken story. Like that's never gonna, that's
Right.
just antithetical to the gospel. That's an idol that you've made out of that. And so there's a million different tracks you can go down. And those routes, they're tempting. They feel right. But we got to pull them out just
Yeah.
like you did on stage.
Yeah.
And it's dirty, it's messy.
It is. We'd rather not do it.
For the best. It's for the best.
We would rather not do it. You know, the other thing about idols, and I had a friend say this one time, and I think it's applicable for all of growth in the Christian life. My friend said to me one time, he said, most of pastoral ministry is idol smashing. Like you're trying to just take an idol and smash it because it's constantly trying to divert your love, obedience, and trust away from God himself. But I think also it's true in the Christian life that if you want to grow, much of growth in the Christian life is to smash the idols that are at your heart, because they are diverting your attention away and your love away from the only one who can give you what you long for. Right. So that's, that was a key thing. And that's also why I wanted to make this point too. In the let me share this again. In the Jeremiah 17, like the contrast with the idols and the broken cisterns in Jeremiah 2 that he's talking about. In Jeremiah 17:5, the Lord says, "Cursed is the man who trusts in a man and makes flesh his strength, whose heart turns away from the Lord." He's getting at here essentially that we trust in things other than God, and when we turn away from him, that's when things are bad. And the second piece of it is that there's trust, and then there's your heart. And we were talking about how idols, yes, make you trust them, but they also make you love them, and that's kind of where the heart piece comes in here. And if you want to change in the Christian life, it really has to get down to a heart level transformation. But most Christians don't do that because we think if we acquire knowledge about the Bible, about, we read a lot of Christian books, we take notes on sermons, is what we were saying. Like that's the thing that's going to grow us. And those things are all important. But if it doesn't produce a heart level transformation at your motives, at what's really kind of getting you up in the morning and how you live your life, there's really going to be a bunch of knowledge without any change. So I think that's an issue for a lot of Christians. We have to come to grips with the fact that knowledge is not enough. And if we want to change, we need that heart level transformation, which requires idol smashing and pulling up the roots that's there.
And for some of us, knowledge is, we think we learn things, therefore we grow. And that's a problem, right? Because it should be much more painful than that. But for some of you watching today, it's more than that problem. It's that knowledge itself is your idol. And you think that if you just knew stuff, and that if you could take everything apart and figure everything out, then you would be safe. And so you study your tail off, and you are like the smartest person in the room every time, everywhere you go. And that in and of itself is something that needs to be smashed in exchange for Christ, who is the wisdom of God, which is only found in the gospel, right? So idols are everywhere. We all have to recognize them, get under the surface, get to the root of our problems, or we're not going to change.
It takes some time to look at that root, and then once you found it, then you got to pull it, man. Then you got to pull it. That's the dragon scales coming off, and that's hard. And
surrender.
Yeah, and just to summarize the way that I suggested, I think in terms of pulling the root, is reversing the things that the idols do. So just a reminder, um, idols, the modes of idols, the call of idols is to do three things often, and that is to, they say, love me, trust me, obey me. Love me, trust me, obey me. So the way to combat that is to find things that are greater than that, and that's where we went to Galatians 2:20, where Paul, I think, maybe unknowingly, lays out the solution to that. And in Galatians 2:20, it talks about how Christ loved us and gave himself for us. And so if we're going to reverse our love for idols, we have to look at the love that Christ has for us. It's the love that melts away the love we have for idols. Idols want us to trust them, but Paul tells us to have faith in the Son of God, to trust him, to transfer our allegiance to him. And then he also says that idols want us to obey them. But he says in Galatians 2:20, we have to be crucified with Christ. We no longer live, but Christ lives in us, which means our allegiance is transferred to the true Savior King of the world. And so pulling the root and fighting off those idols means we reverse our love, our trust, our obedience, and place it under the control of Jesus himself.
Keep that verse up there for 1 second.
Yeah.
So this is a really confusing verse because he's using the word I in two senses, right? There's the I that's been crucified, but I now live. And I think it's important for us to get this, and I think the I that's been crucified is that false self that seeks to justify ourselves before God, that feels like we have to achieve or be perfect or have unlimited knowledge or make peace in the world, or the pressure, the sin that we put on ourselves to kind of save ourselves. That self can be crucified with Christ, and now he takes up residence in us, and he lives through us and gives us his righteousness and his identity, and we're okay because of him. That's a wonderful exchange on the screen right there.
The great exchange. That's good. So that's how we pull the root, man. That's how we do it.
You didn't just pull it, man. You replaced it.
That's right. That's right. So Christ so that was the kind of I gave 3 steps, but then the last kind of, if there was a 4th step in the whole process, you pull the root up, but then you plant something new and healthier. And so that's what, when you become a Christian, God regenerates your heart. He doesn't give you a better life. He gives you a new life, right? You're adopted into his family. And so, through Christ, you can have a healthier system and you can live properly the way God made you to live, because we were made to worship him and serve him. So that's
amen.
It's all interconnected, man. We all are like dragons, like we're all like Eustace. We were all dragons, but Jesus comes and he takes the scales off and makes us new.
It's good news.
So, that's good. All right, well, we can go on and on for hours. Is there anything else that's burning in your heart, or should we kind of call it on finding our problems?
I think that's a good start. We're going to continue the rooted theme next week, so we won't move on just yet. And so Pastor Bob's going to bring us another word next Sunday. What's that about?
Yeah, we'll talk more about this newness of life and knowing who we are. So the next rule is to know who you are, right? So we'll probably look at some Ephesians passages, because there's a lot of newness of life and new humanity in there. That's a major theme in a lot of Paul's letters. You have to know who you are and whose you are, and that's the thing that gives you the healthier system.
Looking forward to it
this week. Yep. All right. So as far as announcements go, I think we forgot to talk about this at the beginning, other than the fact that we wanted to highlight the giving for December, if people weren't watching yesterday. So you gave that announcement. Do you want to share that?
Yeah. So we just wanted to give a big, huge thank you, guys. Listen, Bob and I got up on stage in November with 5 pots of trees, and we said, let's challenge NBC to give at the end of this year towards these 5 initiatives. And we put together a digital brochure, and just with the elders and staff, this is where we feel like we're going. And our vision involved a December goal of twice as much as a normal month, which was 236,000. So that's a big number for us to shoot for that.
Yeah.
We didn't know if that was going to work out. Not only did we receive that, but we exceeded it and took in $316,000 and $316,868. So, guys, we just blew that goal out of the water, and we just wanted to say thank you.
So cool. Yeah. So big thank you. And as Dave said yesterday, the reason we're able to do a lot of the kingdom ministry that we do here, that we're able to support so many people that are serving the Lord, not just locally, but around the globe. The reason we reach our community is because of the generosity of the people that God has brought to Millington. So thank you so much for allowing the Holy Spirit to move on your hearts. And we're excited for what God has for us this year. So thank you. Thank you so much for your generosity.
The best is yet to come.
That's right.
I think that's about all we had today for highlights. So
yeah,
that's a good place to leave it.
If you're looking at other announcements, make sure you check out the website. We'll be highlighting some other things. There's some things that aren't quite ready to get announced because they're a little bit further down the road, but they'll be coming up in the coming weeks. So we're excited about that. All right, Dave.
Stay in your workbook.
That's right. That's right. Keep digging in. Keep getting spiritually formed and get cultivated. Move that dirt around, man. Find that root. Pull it up.
There we go.
Put some new seed down.
All right. God bless you guys. Have a great week.